The idea of worth is, it's complicated because and I do this too. I mean, our natural tendency is to think of our worth has to be based on some kind of like objective measure. Like it's an achievement based belief system, or it's a comparative system where, your worth is in comparison to somebody else's. Um, like that is definitely the way, that I think most of us in the United States have grown up with that kind of mindset. Like that's what worth means. And it's really hard to get out of that and come to an idea of just like that people have worth no matter what their ability is. Right. I mean, obviously, we know that we all have different strengths and different talents, right? Different people are, good at different things. But if we even try to like sort of get away from trying to say, my worth is based on, whatever, right? I'm a good therapist or a good mother, or, right? Instead of just saying like everybody has worth, and it's as simple and as complicated as that, right? That it just is. Not because of anything, not because you've done anything or not done anything.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because it is true. Like even my mind, just when I asked you that, it generally goes to something related to productivity. Oh, I or someone else does this thing really well, or, paints really well, or does, whatever it is. And yeah, it's right. Being whole and complete, period. Being worth it, period.
Yeah. Right. Because the problem with that is that as soon as you can no longer, do, the cooking or the writing or the whatever it is that you were basing your worth on, or if it's, as a mother or a father or a spouse, right, and you no longer have those roles, then you no longer have worth, right? And, obviously that's very problematic because, life is not stagnant like that, right? And our worth as a person doesn't change, if we become sick or disabled or we get a divorce, right? Those shouldn't be the basis of our worth, right? We want our worth to feel like it is a constant. It's always there, and these other things are sort of going to come and go in our life, but we want to feel essentially like reasonably good about ourselves, no matter what we're achieving or whatever, how productive we are, or how much money we have, or any of those kinds of things that we might tend to want to base worth on.
Yeah, I love that we're diving deep into self-worth, because it's a very important concept. To me, it's so the foundation of so many codependent behaviors and tendencies. And yeah, it's just coming at it in a totally different way than I think the human mind often comes at it. What about abandonment? I'd love to touch on that briefly, because that seems to be another one of those big cores that drives a lot of codependency. Any thoughts on overcoming that kind of thinking when the abandonment kinds of fears come up?
I think when we think about abandonment, our natural, tendency is to say, okay, well, that's a fear-based thought that I'm having. Again, I may or may not even be aware of it, but I think that thought then leads us to a lot of our behaviors, such as, the people pleasing and caretaking and rescuing behaviors, because underneath that is our sort of frantic, almost, trying to hold on to somebody, trying to hold on to a relationship, because we don't want them to leave. And again, I think if we go right back to where we were talking about the self-worth piece, you can see how that self-worth, the feeling like you're not enough, you're not good enough, there's something defective about you, then will bring you really quickly to that fear of abandonment, right? If I don't feel like I'm a good enough, whatever, just a good enough person, I think people aren't going to want to stick around. Right. And again, this can be because literally people have abandoned you, either physically or emotionally, or it's just something that comes from that feeling of not being good enough. So then we start acting in ways to try to hold on to people, hold on to relationships, sometimes that really aren't even the healthiest, people or relationships for us to have. um, but it feels worse to have somebody leave, right? That ends up feeling like, well, that's confirmation that I'm not good enough, right? There's
Mhm.
something wrong with me, because if I was, then that other person would want to be with me.
Right.
Right. And you can, I know you, Andy, can see where the thinking has really gotten off there. Right. And that's what I hope that everybody listening can start to hear. Like, there's something not quite right about the way that I'm thinking about that situation. Right. Because there's a lot of other reasons that people might choose to leave,
Right.
not necessarily because there's something wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And again, I think if we can just, right, start to, let some of those other possibilities be considered, then we can start to shift our thinking, rather than just the automatic thought going to, it's about me, and it's about me in a really bad way.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about me in a positive situation. Right. It's about, what have I done wrong? How have I failed? How am I not good enough? Rather than, I mean, obviously in relationships there's two people at least,
Mhm.
right? So it can't be all about me. I'm not going to say there can't be a piece that's about me. um, but your first thought should not be, I've done something wrong, or I'm not good enough.
Yeah. And often is in so many ways. So yeah, it's like that knee-jerk reaction. But yes, getting it. And I love that you could explore other possibilities as to what's happening in your life. Oh, could it be because this person is struggling with something that I'm unaware of, or something coming up from their childhood that's getting, intertwined with our relationship, or those kinds of things. So yeah, that's a important piece in restructuring our thinking there. I love it.